Welcome to Chapter 4 of Tyranny of Dragons. I'm doing Hoard of the Dragon Queen book. I'm using the separate modules, Hoard of the Dragon Queen. Episode 4 is On the Road, and it literally is mostly travel. 6 days to get from where you are to the first beat of the story, and then you're looking at a month-long journey. Now, travel is the most difficult thing to make interesting in D&D. So all you can really do is pepper it with incidents that happen along the way. The first part of this chapter is the fact that you leave the cave with stolen gear from all towns around the place and you return it. Essentially, you can go back to the first town you encountered, Greenest, go back to Governor Nighthill and say, here's your portion of the stolen treasure. Governor Nighthill tells the characters that Leosin has left town, but he's bought the characters horses and riding gear so that they can head to El Turel. El Turel is 200 miles away and takes about 6 days. So you can either just skip that and say you get there, or you can throw an encounter or two in on the way. There's no examples of what to do, it's thrown in your lap. So really you've got to look at either something you've heard on a podcast, or you've looked through the monster manual and thought, I'm going to throw some goblins at them, or there's a tree blocking the road, how do you get around it? Or there's an ambush. You can devise some little inconvenience on the way to El Turel. El Turel is the capital of Elchegard, and you see from miles away a massive light looms over the city. This actually stops any undead entering the city, because it's painful to them. So if you've got an undead in your party, they're not going to El Turel. You're going to meet Onthar Froom. He's a good-natured paladin of Torm, who is a god of heroics and bravery. He loves jokes, pranks, drinks, and a scuffle. Onthar Froom is easily found. He is at a tavern called A Pair of Antlers, and he is the front person for this section of the Order of the Gauntlet. These are one of the main factions you encounter in the Forgotten Realms. It even says in the book you can spend as much or as little time on interactions in El Turel as you decide. So it's very wishy-washy. This whole chapter's very, do what you want. Characters are guaranteed to have a good time in Froom's company, provided they consider continual drinking, arm wrestling, horseback riding contests, sparring and weapon training to be a good time. Basically, Froom wants them to prove themselves in their abilities, so you're testing out their skills. You can throw down a strength contest or archery range, it's kind of a bit of downtime, a bit of respite, a change of gear before we're back on to the mission at hand. Froom's squire shows you to a private space off the tavern's common room and closes the door when he leaves. Waiting for you in the room are the broad-shouldered human paladin, the monk Leosin, and many pitchers of dark red wine. The paladin's face wears a serious expression, unlike its usual open countenance. My friends, we have important business to discuss. At this point you know much. You know almost as much about it as we do. And thanks to you, we know twice as much today as we did a 10-day ago. Something rotten is afoot. We have no formal organisation to oppose these rascals. Not yet, anyway. We're working on that. And we need people like you who know how and when to fight, and how and when to keep their heads down and observe. We can't promise you anything except long days filled with danger and stress. But what could be better than that, eh? So Onthar Froom and Leosin Nilantha are plotting the very first stages of working against the cult. So Leosin's faction is the Harpers. They are quite secretive. They operate in plain sight, but undercover. The Order of the Gauntlet are very open about their actions. We are good. We do good, we fight evil. The Order of the Gauntlet emphasises faith, vigilance, and constant struggle against threats of evil. Many of its members are clerics and paladins, but the Order welcomes anyone who shares its ideals. It says here, the cult is on the move, and it's up to something big. The Order of the Gauntlet, the Harpers, and a third allied group known as the Emerald Enclave want to thwart the cult's plans. Now you can actually join the Harpers, or you can join Order of the Gauntlet, but having them involved means you can call on their resources. Just like Leosin ordered those horses for the players, then these are the two gentlemen can get other little bits. Harpers can be recognised by the group's symbol, a silver harp nestled between the horns of a crescent moon. Some people wear the symbol openly and others keep it concealed. Erlanthar wears his as a medallion around his neck when he is certain that he's not heading to a potential captive situation. sometimes openly, sometimes tucked away. The Order's symbol is a gauntlet grasping a sword by the blade. So the first part of this mission is that Froome and Leosin want you to join this wagon, this movement of cultists as they take the treasure north. You're already intermingled with the cult, but they want you to literally travel close at hand with the wagon train. You need to intercept this wagon train at Baldur's Gate. That is a journey of about 550 miles. So there's a River Chionthar, which will intersect with Baldur's Gate. I suggest that you get the characters on a sailing vessel or boats of some nature and have them do a little bit of sailing on the way and maybe throw in some water-based combat with, I don't know, crocodiles, or just some problems with the weather and how are they going to make this boat have the sails to capture the wind the best. Now Froome has set up a boat for them to take as it happens, so you can do that, or you can walk or ride, whatever you decide. The characters are provided with 50 gold pieces each, but if they moan about that, Froome pulls out a magnificent ruby worth 1,200 gold. He says this ruby will be in the hands of an ally in Waterdeep. So Froome even supplies new gear, new clothes, and you can change your appearance, disguise yourself as a different person to not be recognised by the cult. Essentially, get the characters to Baldur's Gate however they decide. Baldur's Gate is a bustling centre of trade, with goods coming from north and south by wagon along the tradeway and by ship on the Sea of Swords, and from the east along the River Chionthar, and from Cormyr and Sembia. Baldur's Gate is situated on a prominent bluff next to the river, overlooking an excellent natural harbour. So it's divided into 3 sections. On the outside you have like the poor community, and then it's walled itself, so you have to go through little doorways, checkpoints into the actual city itself. But even then there's a low section and a high section. The low section is all traders, merchants, tourists almost, and then on the upper section it's all the rich, the city itself. So you're going to meet a contact of Froome's. He's called Akin Celeborn, and he's in Baldur's Gate. He operates an equipage business in the outer city north of the city wall, in a district called Blackgate. There he sells all the material needed for long distance freight hauling: wagons, rope, netting, grease, chains, wheels and so on. His shop also repairs wagons. He's not directly involved in the hiring of guards for caravans, but he knows the people who are, and he will vouch for the characters. The streets of Baldur's Gate are so tight and slippery that you're not allowed to travel by wagon through the city. There's no vehicles other than trolleys being pulled by people you can hire out to pull your gear through. They don't even allow dogs in, so no sleds are available. So characters can investigate the city, but it's on foot in the weaving streets. When you get to the northern outer section of Baldur's Gate, called Blackgate, Celeborn will tell the characters, hang about in the taverns, overhear what's going on, and you'll hear people travelling north, and find out which caravan the cult is taking, because what happens is all the people who travel north get into little packs and travel for their own safety in a huge pack so that they're many numbered. So merchants travel together with guards. You can be those guards. You can say over here and say, we hear you're looking for guards, you're travelling northward, we'll take pay and keep you safe. So you will even see Rezmir in the streets of Baldur's Gate, surrounded by his entourage, and you will get the sense of which caravan they are going to be travelling on. And incognito, your players can not hopefully sit in the wagon that the cult itself are with, but some of the merchants travelling with the cult. You can try and infiltrate the cult directly into their caravan if you so wish. As your characters set on this long travel journey, there are 2 distinct characters who you'll need to introduce along the way. So imagine that you're travelling along and there's times when you rest in little villages or whatever, and you pick up new people, let off some people. Well, the first new person to get on is a male human called Asbara Joss, who we spoke about briefly earlier. He's a red wizard of Thay. Red wizards are disliked. So to hide the tattoos all up his neck and head, bald head, they wear like woolly hats over, so you don't know they're a red wizard. So get them to roll a 15 on perception to notice the creep of tattoos and then think, you suspect them to be a red wizard. Many people have tattooed heads and shaven hairs, so you have to say you don't know for sure unless they spot these. The fact that there's something else gives them away. So Joss will stay away from most people, stay quiet, doesn't want to give away the fact that he is actually a red wizard. If probed about it, he will probably try and say that he's on the run from his homeland because it's dangerous. But you will see him talking to the leader of the cultists. Now, what's fun here, we need to make almost an alternative party to the characters. One defining set of bad cultists that you will give names and characters to, personalities to. I made one despicable lead character. Think Harry Potter, where Draco Malfoy is the lead bad guy, and then his cronies are just other characters who surround him, sycophants. Now you can come up with your own personality for this lead bad guy, but I called mine Trent, and Trent just personified a bully, and he's going to antagonise your party along the way and become a nuisance with his cronies around him. You might have already said that in the camp when they were resting, that original prison camp, that you could overhear bad guys talking about how they'd beaten down some women and children to nick their treasure, and just horrible people like that. So you can say you recognise some of these idiots from the prison camp, and you're going to try and make them hated by the heroes, but they're not allowed to reveal themselves because they're meant to be undercover. The second person to join the wagon at some stage is Jamna Gleamsilver, a female gnome and a member of a secret organisation called the Black Network. They are outwardly known as the Zentarim. These are a faction who will get the job done using any tactic, even underhand tactic and against the law. They're very much frowned upon, but they still get the job done. Rather than arresting bad guys and going through the legal system, they will just poison them and be rid of them and be like, oh, we dealt with the situation. So they do good by doing bad. They are effectively muscle for hire as well. So Jamna is there, interested in the cult because the Zentarim don't want their power threatened by these cultists growing strong. So all the factions have a common idea of, look, what is the cult doing? We need to stop them. Now the book takes us on 20 other NPCs. This is both overwhelming and not enough. How you should do this is, when you need a thing to happen to describe, you just pick one. Or stab in the dark, whatever, or read them and think, oh, I'll take that. Such as, I'm going to pick one at random. Oin Evanmore, a human male merchant. Evanmore is an independent wagon master hauling exotic birds to the lucrative markets in Waterdeep. He's a stubborn, argumentative man with strong opinions about everything, but he's generous when it comes to pouring drinks for those who will sit and argue with him endlessly. Your characters are probably going to want to know what are in the rest of the wagons they're travelling with, so they pull back the tarp or talk to a guy or girl when having a rest around a campfire. And this guy's got loads of birds. It's just something for you to interject and work with. So this female moon elf merchant, Elderi Luel? Luel's wagon is loaded with exotic wood from the jungle of Chult for the masters, carpenters and cabinet makers of Waterdeep to turn into exquisite furniture. She's impatient with people but exacting about her wagon and doting on her animals. But even this doesn't seem like enough information. What do you do with these characters? Well, when you're camping and you've got this idiot crew, the main cultists, you can have some interaction where the characters have to intervene. Be like, stop being like that with her, stop berating the passengers, and have a little bit of an antagonising situation. Push the characters, but the characters shouldn't really fight back. They might do something underhanded, spells, and then humiliate this idiot group, but you just want that annoyance travelling on the road endlessly with these idiots. It says the journey lasts 40 days, so obviously you're not going to do it day by day. It has random road events to help, but I suggest you look through the monster manual. There's plenty of tables online about travel. You come across this, that and the other. The wheel breaks, that's a classic. One of the wagons wheels break. How is the party going to help fix this wheel and get back on the road? Food, hunting for food, some survival checks. Can you find more food than the idiot cultists? There's a table of tradeway events, life on the road, and what happens. Like, I used this one, I remember. High above, two peritons, they're birds, are watching the road for fresh hearts they can consume before laying their eggs. They circle at an altitude where they are easily mistaken for eagles. Each character can make a DC 15 nature check upon seeing the creatures. Success means they recognise the peritons for what they are before the first dive attack. So I mentioned the eagles swooping around and then they seem to dart down and get larger, and then you've got a fight. There's a one where the wagon goes over a difficult bump, one of the crates of the cultists fall open, all the treasure goes everywhere, everyone's like, oh! And then so the people can see what the cultists are actually moving, and do the party want to steal some of that, or do you want to... Is that your opportunity to get friendly with the idiots and say, hey, we're gonna, we're gonna help you out, guys, whatever they decide. The module then says there's 3 events that have to take place for the story beats to continue. The timing is up to you. Recognised. Have each of the characters make a charisma check on the first day of the journey. At some point during the journey, the character who rolls the lowest charisma check is recognised by a cultist. Someone can recognise the character, and when the character eats or the character sleeps, there's suspicious talking between the bad guys and this non-entity who recognises them. So it's that the cultists then get a, were you there? Someone says he recognises you, you can have that weird, awkward situation. So the only permanent solution to this problem, if they're spotted, is murder, quietly. So you want Jamna Gleamsilver in the unwanted attention section to be questioning the characters and seem like nosy. They don't know who she really is yet. But Jamna will pry and pry until eventually revealing that she's also an undercover agent. Jamna is effectively watching the heroes. So that one is called Who's Your Friend? After poking through your oatmeal with the blade of Jamna's dagger, the gnome lifts it out and shows you an oatmeal-smeared object resembling a tiny bead. She glances over her shoulder towards where cultists sit at their breakfast. It's a sliver of bone, she whispers, curled into a circle so you can swallow it in a mouthful of gruel without noticing. Once eaten, it slowly uncurls inside you, exposing needle points that pierce your guts and kill you slowly. I suspect that in all of your breakfasts. As she gets up and walks away, she adds, let's talk this evening. So that was actually a little bit of sleight of hand from Jamna. She puts or sneaks something into your bowl to lift out and then say, oh, I just saved your life. So later on that evening, at mealtime, Jamna and your characters speak. We don't work for the same people, but we are all on the same side. We share a belief that the cult of the dragon must be stopped. I need to know what they're carrying in those wagons and where they're taking it. Will you help me find out? We can do it tonight. So you can either tell Jamna Gleamsilver what you know, or you can break into some more tents and crates and find things out. And 2 days later, it says, murder most foul. The camp awakens to a killing. One of the cultists, acting as a wagon guard, was murdered last night, stabbed in the back with a sword, the wound is too big for a dagger, and left where he fell beneath a cult wagon. The dead man's companions immediately accuse one of the characters and demands to inspect the weapons. If the character carries a short sword, it will be a match, but that proves nothing. Any sword that size would be close enough. Many footprints around the wagon determine that they are all from people crowding around the body in the morning. The ground was swept during the night to remove prints. The character should be popular with other travellers. They've probably saved numerous lives along the way with encounters, but the cultists should be less popular. Now out of the blue, the Red Wizard, Asbara Joss, steps forward and tries to calm the situation, in the process saying more than anyone has heard him say at all the other times. So yeah, he will come out and say, now gentlemen, let's not get out of hand. The cultists, however, will always look at the chosen PC as they killed our teammate. The murder was actually done by Jamna Gleamsilver. The guard interrupted Jamna looking in things in crates, and so Jamna had to assassinate and did a clean job. So yeah, this is your opportunity to sprinkle a travel period with whatever you want. A cave. Your cave looks too interesting to bypass. You could effectively run one-shots, or anything you want, really. This is the way you've got to do most of the work, unfortunately. You could skip over it and just talk it through it, but this is your chance to spread your wings a bit. The players don't know what's in the book and what isn't, so be inspired by the little notes it does give you. Make the characters hate the cultists, make the cultists hate the characters, but not suspect that they are who they are. I know it's a dodgy chapter, I hope you enjoy it though, because it's kind of like in at the deep end if you're a new DM. Well, that's it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in another video.